Okay, as we move on to exercise 8-11, we're going to be creating a nested if function. So again, these last two exercises are dealing with nested functions, all right, or putting functions inside of other functions. And in this case, we're going to nest an if function. And we've dealt with if functions a little bit thus far. Let me give you a little example of what a nested if function might look like. And we're going to give the example of a basketball team. Okay, so if you've played basketball before, you know that the taller people are usually in the post position, all right, or they play down underneath the hoop, and the shorter people are usually your ball handlers and your guards. So here's how this works, all right. If you are greater than 6'5", you will be a center. If not, it's going to test to see if you're greater than 6'2", and if you are, you become a forward. And if you're still not greater than 6'2" or taller than 6'2", it's testing to see if you're greater than 5'10". And if you are, you become a forward or a shooting guard. If you're not greater than 5'10", you've essentially done what I've done and you just quit playing basketball. Another example is a grade book. If it's greater than 90%, it's an A. And if it's not, then it checks to see if it's greater than an 80%. If it is, then it's a B. If it's still not, it checks to see if it's greater than 70%. If it is, then it's a C. There's an example for you. In this case, we're going to do an example of creating a nested if function to see if our totals in column 11 are greater than 120. That's what we're going to start with. So let's go ahead and move our formula bar or our cursor down here to cell B12. And we are going to click our formula tab. And then we're going to choose our logical library option. And we're going to choose the if function. This is going to open up our function dialog box. And from here, we're going to go ahead and begin with our logical test. If you remember, I just said, is our logical test greater than or equal to the cell of B11? So, click cell in the logical test, make sure your cursor is right here, and click cell B11. And then ask, is it greater than or equal? Because 120 or more, not 121, 120. So is it greater than or equal to 120? We can answer that question right now. We know that 102 in cell B11 is not. So if the value is true, and we know it's not, but if it was true, we would give it a 120 or more. Maybe even an exclamation point, because hey, you did a good job, right? Now, if the value is false, this is where we're going to now check another function. So if the value is false, or if it's not over 120, we want to now see, is it over 110? So this is another if function. So while the insertion point is in the value if false box, again, you're going to have to choose the if button from the name. All right, so we click the drop down and we choose if, and it starts a brand new if function that's actually nested in the previous if function. Now, we are going to test to see if cell B11, it's the same test, is greater than or equal to, and in this case we're checking to see if it's 110. All right, so now we're determining whether or not the value in B10 is greater than 110. Well, we know it wasn't greater than 120. It doesn't look like it's greater than 110. So if the value is true, if it was, and it's not, we would put 110 or more. If the value is false, we are just going to write less than 110. Okay, so again, we're checking to see if cell B11 is greater than 120, and if it's not, we're going to check to see if it's greater than 110, and if it's not, we're going to say less than 110. Do note that our answers are in quotes. So let's go ahead and press OK to this dialog box. And we know that January's answer of 102 is indeed less than 110. So it checked it first to see if it was greater than 120, and then it checked to see if it was greater than 110. When both answers were false, it reverted back to an answer of less than 110. We could take the fill handle. This is a relative formula, so we can go ahead and copy this over to row H. Now they're a little crowded in there, so we're going to go ahead and auto-fit all of these. So to just auto fit, just choose B through H and then double click between H and I, There you go. They all fit. Okay. And then let's go ahead and change the height of row 13 to 90 pixels. Close enough there. All right. Let's see here. What else do they want us to do? We're going to click cells A13 through H13. I don't know if they have this wrong or not, but I think we're probably okay. Oh, they just want us to do this. They want us to merge and center this. So we're going to select this text here and click the merge and center button. That's going to be found in the home tab right here. And then they want us to center it across the top and the bottom right there, all found in the alignment group. We're going to take the data in row 12 and they want us to right align all of the data or our answers. So let's go ahead and select our answers and right align them so that they line up well with the answers of the numbers up above. We're going to change the landscape orientation to, or change the orientation to landscape. So that's in the page layout tab. Orientation, change that to landscape. All right. So at this point in time, you've completed exercise 811. We're going to go do a really cool thing here with exercise 812, going back to conditional formatting. We'll get to that in a moment. 8-11 completed.